Welcome to The Kingdom View. I am your host, Lou Ann Toposky. Thanks for joining us. Come on, let's see what God has for us today. Well, hi everyone. Thanks again for joining us here on The Kingdom View. I am your host, Lou Ann Toposky. I'm super excited to have Casey Kearney with us today and Lori Rowland. And what we're going to talk about is how the song came to be on my show. So when you hear a song in the very beginning of this show, and when you hear, when the show is ending, we're going to talk about that particular song and how that came to be. And we're going to actually hear the entire song. This is its debut. So I want to talk about it. The song, it's called In His Image. And that takes us back to the beginning, right? So we were created in God's image. So we were created, in fact, God said, let's make man in our own image. And so we could rule over the fish and the birds and all of that. So what I find interesting is not only did he say, okay, let's do that, but then he did it, right? So it was first a thought and then he did it. So God created mankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. So that's the New International Version. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? He wanted to commune with them, right? Communicate. So they were communicating. They communed in the morning.
Garden.
In the garden, yes, but in the cool of the day. That's what I was thinking of. So oftentimes I like to take walks in the morning, and that's when I like to have my meditation and I talk to the Lord. But this song originated, it's in his image. So we were created in his image, and that was like from the beginning. So this was in Lori's heart way back then. And I just think that that's very interesting, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that later. But even Jeremiah 1:5 says that I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. So we have a purpose. Before we were in our mother's womb, right? We're like part of God. It's like he's got all this light in him. And we are all his light. See, he created each one of us to do something for him. And we're to commune together. We're to be together. And that's the part that sometimes is missing. But if we see the good in everybody, it's easier to, be in unity with each other. But this is powerful. And so, Lori, I want to ask you, because in his image, you wrote it when you were 24 years old. And the poem, excuse me. Yes, you wrote the poem when you were 24 years old. So what prompted you to bring it out now, like, a few decades later?
Yeah, 3 decades later. Well, it's a long story, but made short, that I was in the program that you were talking about, trying to get ready to monetize our ministry and start business, and I was having a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do for my program. I was sticking the square peg in a round hole, and then I pivoted, and it was still more of the same. And finally, in my prayer time, I really felt like the Lord was saying, start within his image. And so I pitched that to the group, to our team, and one of them, Jaquel, said, in his image, I like that. I think that's it. And so that's why I picked it all these years later, because I really felt like I was led.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So in your prayer time, you were communing with God, and he said, in his image. And then and I remember, because I was in that meeting, and but Jaquel said, I like that. And just the way she said that, it was like, yeah, that's good. So you went with it. And then you felt led to ask Casey to make the poem a song.
Yeah, right around in that time, I told her too when I pitched it to her that I just had this vision of her leading us in music, and really it didn't have anything to do with the poem at that time, but having a conference of sorts. And then when I started one day just singing in his image, but I don't sing, so that's why I turned to her and said, hey, what do you think? And she's like, hey, let's try it. So
awesome. So Casey, then when Lori approached you and asked you, hey Casey, I have this poem, could you make it a song? You know, what were your thoughts at that time? And then you obviously said yes. What were your thoughts while you were composing this into a song?
So we had started a thing, me and my producer in Nashville, we had just recently had started a thing called Life and Lyrics, and a lady had approached me about her children's song ideas and some other things, and so it wasn't uncommon, but she was like, I wrote a poem, can you make it a song? And I was like, I'll sure give it a try. And so I remember sitting down at the piano, and I was like, okay, God, what you want? Because it was already written, and a lot of times when people give you ideas, they're kind of scatterbrained ideas, or they're not really written in song form, but because she is a writer, she wrote it very much in poem form, and very much, you know, where I didn't really have to make a ton of structural changes. I was able to just sit down and say, okay, God, where's the melody? You know, what key do you want this in? You know, like that kind of thing. Just try to figure it out and just kind of play and just whatever came out. And so we did a couple drafts and there it was.
Awesome, thank you. So again, you even asked God. You said, hey,
even
what key do you want this in?
Yeah.
That's amazing, that's amazing.
Tried it in a few different places and saw what fit.
That's amazing, thank you. So, and you know, this is not your first rodeo. I mean, obviously you've, in 2016 you were in Nashville and you were recording some Christian or some country music. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've led worship and I sang in church for for a while, and but I didn't even start singing period till I was like 26. So I didn't even start the church part till I was like 26, 25, 26, late 20s. I couldn't play any instruments, I couldn't do anything, and then when I started to do the music thing, and then I was connected with my producer in Nashville. I was 32 years old, and it was kind of a now or never moment where I was like, you know what, we're either going to do this thing or we're not. So I did. I went to Nashville right by myself. I put the music on a 0% interest credit card, so I knew I had a certain amount of time to pay it off, and I got gigs to be able to do it. So it was an adventure for sure.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yes, that was an adventure. So you really went for it. Like, you felt like there was something in you.
It was too much. Like, I had my kids, and I have 3 children, and I had done that, and I was restless, and there was something inside that was just, and I wanted to lead worship. That's all I ever wanted to do, and but it was one of those things that nothing ever fell in place, and this began to fall in place, and it truly was just burning in me that, like, this is not something that I can just like ignore. This is something that like I gotta do this. And so a part of it's being a creative, it's being an artist, and if you don't let it out, then it totally makes you crazy. Right. It just does. And so it became an outlet to really try to do that. And yeah, it had to happen.
Awesome. So I want to take this all the way back then to the beginning, because he knew us before we were in our mother's womb.
Absolutely.
So when we were created, when we came on earth, I mean, sometimes we're playing, you know, maybe you were playing a musician when you were a young kid, because it's already in your spirit. You knew what you wanted to do. We all know. So I guess my question to the audience is, what has God been stirring in you? What have you been thinking about? What do you think he's been prompting you about? Because basically what you've done is you went for it. You went for it. You're like, okay, this is it. So you did. So congratulations. Yay. So the next question I want to ask you, and the Waffle House. I love the Waffle House song. All right, I love the Waffle. It makes me cry every time I listen to it. And so, can you tell us a little bit about the Waffle House?
So I love to write stories, and I love to write people's stories in real life. I write my own and just things I hear. And I had met this couple at a restaurant. I was playing a gig, and she was like, "We've been married 30-something years, and our wedding we slow danced at a Waffle House." And I was like, "That sounds like a country song." And so I sat on it for a little while, and I have, in order for me to write, I have to like leave because my house is a little chaotic, and so I have to leave. So I was away for a weekend, for a few days, just so I could like focus and write. And so I did, and I remember laughing when I was doing it because I was just doing it for my friends, and I played it the Friday night, like 2 days later, when I played a gig, and I played it for them. I was like, "Look at this song, Rachel, it's so funny." And I had no idea, and I honestly, it's so funny because like I had no idea. It's been good to me, and it's been really sweet, and it opened up a lot of doors for me, and Waffle House ended up putting it in their jukeboxes, and people related to it so much because they all have their like start out love stories, you know? And so it was really funny that I just never saw that one coming.
Yeah.
But Waffle House would be what I was known for as the Waffle House girl.
Yay. Well, that's a good one to be known for because it's a love story, you know, and everybody loves love.
So sweet.
So yeah, so the next song I want to talk to you about is the tide, the red tide sky.
Yes.
And actually, our videographer, it was the same videographer for you,
Yes.
and that's how we actually got a hold of him, was
Yes.
through you and Lori. But can you share a little bit, because that one's emotional, but it's a different direction.
Totally different direction, still a life story.
Yeah.
I was playing a deck, and the red tide's this, disgusting thing that happens in the water, and it just happens after hurricanes kind of deal. And they closed the deck, and the sunset was incredible. And I was like, but it lies, because as soon as you go outside, you're feeling terrible. And so when I was driving home, I have a long drive from my shows, and I was like, I'm going to write that, like you lie like a red tide sky. And so I did, and I had this vision of a piano on the beach on fire. And that's impossible to do. Like, people don't want you to do this. And obviously no one can get that. Anyways, we did. And Fletcher made it happen. My husband and our friends, they carted this piano across the water thing, and we took that thing down to the beach and lit it on fire. And then a little kid, he's like, did that wash up here? It was adorable. But no, it was amazing, and it was fun. It was a fun adventure. And the song, it's a lot of people's favorite off the album, which if you don't know what the red tide is, I didn't know if they would understand it, but...
Yeah, I had to look it up.
Yeah,
because I'm not from around here.
Yeah, if you're not near water, you're not going to get it. But I actually laughed doing that too, because there's a few references in there, like, how to cut my oxygen. That's what the algae does, is it takes the oxygen out of the water and kills it. So I was like, it's a little joke, because so apparently I should just write songs that I don't think are serious, because that's the ones that people think are their favorite.
Awesome. Well, I do want to talk a little bit of seriousness right now, because I know that you had a concussion, and that really took you out of the whole scene for a while. So can you share with us, what happened with you during that whole situation?
So I had two back to back, 3 months apart, and I was at a fancy party in a sequin dress, and I slipped on the slippery, rainy floor, and I hit my head really hard. And I thought it was fine, and 3 days later, I'm bawling my eyes out thinking my head's gonna explode. And so we went to the ER then, and it's Post-Concussive Syndrome. I was super sensitive to lights and sound, which is a terrible thing to be as a musician, sensitive to light and sound. And I couldn't do it, so it took a long time to recover from that. I had to cancel gigs and stop life. My family had to whisper, and my mom had to take care of kids. It was just a mess. And so I was finally starting to feel better 3 months later. And I took my sister-in-law to the hospital to have her baby. She was getting induced. And I was like, I can drive you, I'm fine. And we get rear-ended, and I whiplash and hit again, threw me right back into it. So it was another 3 to 6 months of it. And so I still have relapses of different things and triggers and stuff that I deal with, but for the most part, I'm good now. But at the time, it was a huge struggle, and for somebody like me who's driven, and I'm just constantly ready to go and do, and I'm just doing something, the only thing I could do was just stop. And I had to just stop and let the world just keep on moving, and I couldn't do anything and couldn't go with it. And I was like, God, why in the world did this happen? And then so much when you get on the other side of it, you realize why. And there's so much of it God just needed to show me that the world can still go on without you, number one. And number two, it's okay if you rest, because you can pick it right back up. And I didn't bring you this far to let it fall, and I've got it completely in my control. And so I wasn't holding all those balls in the air. And so for them to fall for a minute and pick them back up whenever I needed to rest, so it really taught me to pace myself. It helped me with COVID. COVID, I didn't feel quite as traumatized by that when everything stopped, because I was like, everything can stop and it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So it was really some huge lessons that I didn't know I needed. That I really learned from it, that were way beyond physical, because now I'm super paranoid, and everybody calls me when their kids have it, and I'm like, just make sure. But other than that, there was some spiritual lessons in there that God had to deal with, and He needed to teach me about pacing myself and resting and learning how to heal.
Yeah, good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, because sometimes we do need to stop. We need to rest so we can reset, so then we can remember who we are and know that God is in charge. And we just have to pace ourselves and stay in step with the Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Because because from my understanding, you're a super mom. You've got this, this career, awesome career, path going for you, and you've got faith that's going for you. So can you share a little bit about how you intermix your faith, your family, your career? How do you do that and stay balanced, really?
I mean, truly it is. It's only the Lord that keeps me sane and steady, and I have a lot of help. I have a lot of family, and we're all close by, so I have a huge support system, which is great. I do totally lead a double life when it comes to the fact that we live in the country and my kids all rodeo, and that's what we're doing up there, and then I go play my shows, and it's a completely separate life, and it's a completely all sparkles and no dirt and horses, so it's a really funny dynamic there, and it's just a constant balancing act. It's a constant struggle. Sometimes I feel like I just don't really know what I'm going to do and how I get through it all the time, but it's fun, and I just wouldn't have it any other way. And it is the Lord that just kind of helps me to manage it all and balance it. And I have to constantly prioritize it and keep myself in check of what's truly important. Is this going to matter to me when I'm 80? Then I'm leaving it alone.
Yeah,
so
that's good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. Well, audience, are we about ready to hear In His Image? What do you think? All right, so please get started, get set over there, and we'll go ahead and step off of the stage. But audience, so this is In His Image, and this is the debut for In His Image. And thank you for helping me welcome Casey Kearney.
Same pathetic me, the me too weak and feeble to resist the tempter's spoil, too proud to be called humble, too hard to be soft soil. I'm made to be called chosen, I'm powerful by your choice. So often earthly pleasures drown out your still small voice, but I'm made in His image. I'm made in His image. I'm made in the image of my King. I grow my way through darkness, forgetting you're the light. Defeated and discouraged, I long to do what's right. Then looking to your word, your scripture pierces through. Like thunder breaking silence, I'm reminded of what's true. That I'm made in His image. I'm made in His image. I'm made in the image of my King. I'm made in His image. I'm made in His image. I'm made in the image of my King. You see me groping through the darkness, but your word comes piercing through. Like thunder breaking silence, you remind me what is true. That Jesus lives and dwells within, and His blood
And I just wanted to also thank Cal Tucker because back in January, she saw a vision where I was doing the Kingdom View with a live audience, and today that came to be. So it's very important to just say what the Lord is saying to you. Just say it out loud, and it comes to be. When she said that, I said, I receive it, and that's what happened. And here we are. So thank you, Casey, and thank you, audience, for being with us today, and we'll see you next time on The Kingdom View. Bye now.
This is like a little combination of two songs that I really liked to do, because I've got other ones I'm gonna do later, original ones. So I'll do these, and these are fun. So I should be fine. I should be fine. All right, here we go. I actually, you know how Facebook, you know, like those little, you know, all the tons of reels and TikToks. There was a little girl that did this. It was like a funny one that went viral, and that's how I was introduced to this song. And then I looked up the actual church and the actual thing, and then I made this little mashup of two songs I really like. But it was a funny way to be introduced to this song called It Ain't Over, so.
Somebody here needs an answer to the questions, fears, and the whys. Somebody here is desperate for freedom from the past, the chains, and the lies. Feels like you wasted so much time. You wanna move ahead, but you're still last in line. Feels like you're running will never end, and you will never win. I don't know who told you you would not make it. I don't know who told you you could not take it. I don't know who told you it's time that you quit. My God says wait, it ain't over yet. Somebody here needs an answer to the questions, fears, and the whys. Somebody here is desperate for freedom from the past, the chains, and the lies. Feels like you wasted so much time. You wanna move ahead, but you're still last in line. Feels like you're running will never end, and you will never win. I don't know who told you you would not make it. I don't know who told you you could not take it. I don't know who told
or inspired you in any way and you would like to support the Kingdom View, go to thekingdomview.com and click on the donate button. All gifts are tax deductible. If you would like to join us at our Inner Healing Conference in Jacksonville, North Carolina, August 20th, 2022, just go to thekingdomview.com for details. You will have the option to attend the conference on site or online.